أمة بلا أخلاق. الخسائر الناجمة عن الخمر فقط سنويا 136 مليون دولار. ده بس السكارة، ما يتعرضوا السكارة من إفساد لمقتنيات الناس سنويا 136 مليون دولار. أمريكا أمة بلا أمن. يا أخواننا هل تعلموا أن واشنطن عاصمة الدولة العظمى بها أحياء لا يستطيع أن يدخلها حتى مدير CIA بالليل، وأن نيويورك عاصمة العالم بها أحياء لا تستطيع أن تدخلها الشرطة الفيدرالية. أمريكا أمة بلا أمن. أين عدسات قناة الجزيرة التي يمكن أن تنقل لنا هذه النتوءات والآلام والجراحات في الجسد الأمريكي داخليا؟ أمريكا أمة بلا أمن. كل 25 دقيقة جريمة قتل في أمريكا. كل 25 دقيقة، يعني في الساعة جريمتين قتل في الساعة. كل 10 ثواني في أمريكا جريمة سطو على منزل. كل 10 ثواني. طيب سنويا ينتحر في أمريكا 30,000 شخص. ضرر في اليوم ينتحروا كم؟ ما يقارب 40 شخص في أمريكا سنويا ينتحروا 30,000 شخص، ما يقارب 80 يوم. طيب أمريكا دولة بلا أمن. في لجنة التربية والتعليم بالكونغرس الأمريكي 125,000 طفل يذهبون إلى مدارس الأساس وهم يحملون مسدسات. 125,000 طفل أمريكي يذهبون إلى المدارس وهم يحملون إيش؟ مسدسات. طيب أمريكا أمة بلا أسرة. بلا أسرة. خذوا هذه الإحصائيات. أولا 2,500,000 طفل في أمريكا فارغون من بيوتهم. 1,200,000 حالة طلاق سنويا. 17,500,000 امرأة تتعرض للضرب والعنف الأسري سنويا ويحدثونك عن حقوق المرأة. 1,800,000 مراهقة تحمل في العام. 1,800,000 مراهقة تحمل بلا زواج في العام. 42% من النساء الأمريكيات يبلغن الشرطة عن تعرضهن لتحرشات جنسية. هؤلاء لا يبلغنا فكما لا لم يبلغ.
أمريكا أمة بلا عقل. 47% من الرجال الأمريكان يتعاطون المخدرات. 35% من النساء الأمريكان يتعاطون المخدرات. 55% من الشباب الأمريكي من عمر 18 إلى 24 يتعاطون المخدرات. بالله أسألكم بالله، هذه الأمة لو إحنا بس جلسنا كده نخلف رجل على رجل وننتظر موتها، هل ستموت أم لا؟ هذه الأمة، هذا الكتاب الكوني، هذا الكتاب الكوني، هذه الأمة لو جلسنا نخلف رجلا على رجل ننتظر موتها ستموت وستهلك.
A number of things are coming together at this particular time. One of them is the financial crash, in which the crash of the US dollar takes pride of place. The US dollar is now in a place called ICU, in a hospital, intensive care unit. It has actually expired and is being kept alive artificially by this pump that they use. You see the chest going up and down. But the plug is soon going to be pulled, and then it will be pronounced dead. And the US government knows that very well. That if Israel attacks Iran, that's it. The link between oil and the dollar, if the price of oil shoots up, the implication is that the US dollar is heading down. And they know that an attack on Iran is going to be the final nail in the coffin for the US dollar. There's going to be panic as people struggle and rush to dump their paper because the price of bread is climbing every hour. Runaway inflation. We are now on the brink of momentous and indeed monstrously evil change in the world as never before, ever before experienced in human history. And where are the scholars of Islam?
Our nation is in crisis. We face a systemic collapse of confidence in our economy and the value of our currency. The United States controls the world reserve currency, but right now we aren't being good stewards. Already, we're seeing nations around the world set up trade agreements to avoid using dollars. Some nations going as far as dumping US treasuries. Spending is out of control, and there is no one to stop it. At the risk of losing a political fight, politicians in DC are steering the entire world into a fiat currency crisis. Many are buying gold to protect themselves, but what about a return to the gold standard? It certainly makes sense to those who are looking for safety. Central banks own the majority of the world's gold. In fact, central banks are net buyers of gold. Publicly, they hate gold, but behind the scenes they are buying it to protect themselves from the very currencies they are in charge of. Gold as money is treated as an old idea, but it is fiat money that is an old idea that has been tried on every continent and has failed every time, always leading to an economic crisis and in some cases, hyperinflation.
The entire world is rushing towards World War III by any measurement or definition. Basically, a giant war in North Africa, the Middle East, and Central Asia is about to be launched as a political smokescreen for the financial collapse that's happening in the West. They've got warships off the coast of Syria and Armenia.
War on Iran obviously is going to impact on the world economy. Number one, on the price of oil. Not only because Iran is a major supplier of oil, but also because Iran is located in that basin that the Iranians call the Persian Gulf and the Arabs call the Arab Gulf, and they're still fighting over the words. The price of oil is going to shoot up because Iran can also block the Straits of Hormuz. There's Iranian territory on this side and Oman on that side. It's not difficult for Iran to block the Straits of Hormuz and disrupt all the passage of oil tankers. So we can anticipate fairly confidently that the price of oil is going to escalate dramatically once the attack takes place. And the American government knows that. And that's why the American government does not want Iran to be attacked. Because the American government knows, and the Federal Reserve knows, and the bankers also know, that the US dollar is going to collapse. It will not survive an Israeli attack on Iran with the price of oil shooting up through the roof. And if the US dollar collapses, of course they're going to have to demonetize the US dollar. It will no longer be legal tender. They have to have something in place. They probably already have something to replace it, but at a fraction of its previous value. The American economy is going to collapse. Large numbers of white Americans are going to lose their wealth. And many of them are going to be listening to this lecture. There's going to be chaos in the United States when the economy collapses. There can be riots in the United States, and they're already anticipating that. And so an attack on Iran would lead to economic, financial, and monetary consequences that would be disastrous for the US. Today, it's them. Tomorrow, it's us. And they're not going to wait until tomorrow to recognize that. The minute Iran is attacked, they will recognize that the threshold has been crossed and that we are now moving inevitably towards nuclear war. Russia and China acted strangely on Libya. You remember? When the vote came to the Security Council, they abstained, knowing full well that if they abstain, the resolution will be carried. And that is the end of Gaddafi and end of the Libyan government. Why did they do that? I felt that perhaps they knew what the plan was. And they wanted to let the Western world, NATO, to sink deeper and deeper into a quagmire. You know, like shifting sands, you can't get up. So eventually, they will end up in the graveyard, and only then will Russia and China attack them. How are Russia and China responding to Syria at the moment? How will Russia and China respond to an attack on Iran and on Pakistan? My understanding is that Russia and China are going to be quite different in the way they have behaved so far in international affairs. Quite different once the attack on Iran takes place. And so we will be heading ultimately towards world war.